How did a young theoretical physicist from New York become the driving force behind a weapon that changed the course of history? Today, we're diving into the life of J. Robert Oppenheimer, the man behind one of history's most controversial inventions, the atomic bomb. It's a story of science, ambition, and regret. Robert Oppenheimer was born in 1904 to a well-off family in New York City. His father was a wealthy textile importer, and his mother, a talented painter. Young Robert had everything a curious mind could ask for: books, art, and access to the best education. By the time he was a teenager, he was already fascinated by the mysteries of the universe. He dove into chemistry, reading scientific journals like most of us read comic books. And soon, he was off to Harvard, where he mastered chemistry in just 3 years. But then, he discovered physics. Physics became Robert's obsession, so he traveled to Cambridge University to study under some of the best minds in the field. But his brilliance came with a dark side. He was intense, difficult, and his colleagues often found him aloof. There's even a story that he once poisoned an apple, intending it for his professor out of sheer frustration. But incidents like these reveal the pressures inside him. Still, Oppenheimer was unstoppable. He quickly made a name for himself, publishing papers on quantum mechanics, a new and revolutionary field that looked at the very building blocks of reality. Soon, he was offered a position teaching at UC Berkeley. And that's where he would stay for the next decade, pushing the boundaries of theoretical physics. Until the world erupted in conflict. In the late 1930s, tensions in Europe escalated. Fascism was on the rise, and scientists discovered something that changed the course of history: nuclear fission. They realized they could release an unimaginable amount of energy by splitting atoms. The power source of stars could be replicated on Earth and turned into a weapon. Scientists, including Leo Szilard and Albert Einstein, warned the US government that Germany might be working on an atomic bomb. They urged President Franklin D. Roosevelt to start a similar program. And thus, the Manhattan Project was born, a top-secret government effort to build the world's first atomic bomb. The US needed the best scientists for the job, and they turned to Oppenheimer to lead the project. He accepted. In 1943, Oppenheimer assembled the best physicists, engineers, and mathematicians from around the world in Los Alamos, New Mexico. This remote desert would become ground zero for atomic research. The task? Create a weapon unlike any seen before. A single bomb capable of flattening a city. For Oppenheimer, Los Alamos was a dream and a nightmare. He was brilliant, persuasive, and visionary, but the project came at a cost. He became a shell of his former self, haunted by the implications of their work. The scientists built and tested prototypes, running countless calculations. Finally, they were ready. The test bomb, nicknamed Gadget, was placed in a tower in the New Mexico desert. The test was scheduled for July 16, 1945. That morning, they gathered at the Trinity test site, waiting in silence. It was 5:29 a.m. when the bomb detonated, lighting up the sky brighter than the sun. Oppenheimer watched the explosion and later recalled a line from the Hindu scripture, the Bhagavad Gita, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds." For a moment, the scientists were elated. They had succeeded. But as the dust settled, the weight of what they had done began to sink in. Just 3 weeks after the test, 2 bombs were dropped on Japan, one on Hiroshima and another on Nagasaki. The destruction was unimaginable. Cities flattened, tens of thousands killed in seconds, with many more suffering in the aftermath. Oppenheimer had unleashed a power so destructive that it forced the world to confront the reality of nuclear war. After the war, Oppenheimer became a vocal advocate for international control of atomic energy. He was haunted by what he had helped create. And as the Cold War intensified, the US began to see him as a liability. Oppenheimer opposed the development of even deadlier hydrogen bombs, arguing it would lead to an arms race. The government turned on him, accusing him of being a security risk due to his leftist sympathies and associations. His security clearance was revoked, marking the end of his influence on US policy. Oppenheimer's story is one of contrasts, a brilliant scientist with a deep love of discovery, yet one who unleashed a force capable of ending civilization. After his death, he was recognized as a pioneer, an intellectual giant, and the reluctant father of the atomic bomb. Oppenheimer's legacy is complex. He was a man who pushed science forward but paid a price for his ambition and curiosity. His work forced us to ask questions about morality and science, and how far we're willing to go in the name of progress. J. Robert Oppenheimer's story reminds us that the power of science comes with a responsibility to humanity. His life raises questions about the ethics of innovation, questions we're still grappling with today. If you found this story captivating, subscribe to learn more about the minds that have shaped our world, for better or worse.